All right, start looking around. Somebody find me that panic button. I'm smashing that thing to bits.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices? No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass, unlimited subscriptions, and compatible controller required. As always, I'm Braden Iwalsko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwalsko. Carter First, too, as well, on our main one, at Locked On Jays. As well, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube or you're listening wherever else, make sure you head over to the YouTube page. You hit the subscription there. It's free, so you might as well. We appreciate it, so go do that. Hit the sub button. Also, yeah, a lot to get into, I guess. I'm full on panic mode. Last year, Carter, I think we went through a lot of the season where we were like, oh, is it too early? John Schneider and Ross Atkins says it's too early to really care yet. No. I'm at the point where I see the holes in this team. It reminds me of 2024. Somebody get me the panic button because I am hitting it. And it's time. It's time. After the 5 games, I thought, all right, maybe it is a little early. Then the Blue Jays get a BS win on Friday. A little Mickey Mouse win. I know there's some people that hate when we say Mickey Mouse win, but Mickey Mouse win. And then they get absolutely slaughtered on Sunday. So, panic button time, guy?
Offensively, absolutely, it has to be. I mean, what have we seen in the last 8 games that's gotten you excited about the offense? We are one pitcher away, one secret spy within the Yankees organization that is throwing baseball games for him, allowing the Toronto Blue Jays to win a game from being on an 8-game losing streak right now. 1-5 on the road trip. Just the offense continues to be non-existent. And again, we're playing this waiting game for the big guys to start hitting home runs. You got a Tony Tater's home run this week, and you got a Vladimir home run, but they're both solo shots. So you need guys on base when you're actually going to hit home runs, especially when you don't get a whole lot of them. And I brought up this stat, obviously, to you before we started recording this podcast. We're getting a little bit ahead, but I guess it is the next series coming up. The Boston Red Sox played the Cleveland Guardians today. That's the day we're recording this on Sunday. They scored 13 runs. The Blue Jays have 12 runs in the last 7 games. So right there, just by that, clearly these offenses are on 2 different planets. And I'm not worried about the pitching whatsoever. I'm not going to complain about the pitching at all on this podcast because 12 runs in 7 games is absolutely unacceptable. You're not allowing the pitchers to be able to even make one mistake. They give up. They were down 3-1 in one of the games this weekend, and the game was over. The offense is not going to be able to score 3 runs. Absolutely blown out in the first game of the doubleheader. The second game of the doubleheader, not a whole lot better, to be honest. You really stole a game in that first game, which you needed. You didn't get to Carlos Carrasco whatsoever again. It's the same story, it seems like, over and over and over right now, especially more recently. At least in the Seattle Mariners series, they were getting on base. They were getting hits. They weren't just necessarily getting that clutch hit. The Houston Astros series, the New York Yankees series, we're just not even getting base runners. Just the at-bats are absolutely horrendous, and it feels like there's nothing really in sight that's supposed to get us excited about the offense until you maybe start getting home runs from some of the big 3. But is that enough even to elevate this offense to a spot where they're even mediocre? It's tough right now to watch these at-bats and get even slightly excited about what the offense is going to bring.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm sort of sick of the people saying as well that, oh, this is a tough stretch. You have to beat good teams. That's at the end of yes, you're playing the better teams in the league, but at the same time, you see the holes. I say, don't look at the stats, don't look at the standings, don't look at anything like that. Watch the games. Use the eye test. What's wrong with this team? For one, hitting in bunches. 2, timely hitting. 3, your superstars not being your superstars. There is a lot wrong here. And at some point, we have to be realistic. I try to defend this team sometimes to, some of our friends or some of the non-Blue Jay fans or whoever it may be. that, with a whole bunch of different things. And at some point, I got to be realistic and say this team just is the same team in 2024, but the addition of Anthony Santander.
And a better bullpen.
Sorry, the hitting, I should say,
Yeah.
is the same as 2024.
There you go.
You're right. The bullpen is way better. The starting pitching is good. Not again, we'll go over the games from this weekend a little bit as well. Not the best that you want from the boys, but at the same point, it's like you go out there and you know that you're going to get absolutely no help. So, how do you go into games with a good mindset as a starting pitcher when you know that the offense is going to put up 2 runs? I think that's pretty difficult. So, I don't know. I'm full on panic button. I'm saying this season might be a wash.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go that far yet because I can't just in my head I can't fathom this offense being this bad for this long. It's more so with the Vladdy with the Santander. I just don't expect them to not have this power for just a significant period of time. So I think that you are going to have a little bit of a higher floor for this offense. But this offense has zero upside whatsoever. Like you're not going to get these 8-run bunches, these 7-run games, these 6-run games, even a 5 spot at this point seems like even a 3 spot. Let's go with a 3 spot. I haven't gotten a 3 spot since the Seattle Mariners series. It's just this team is just never going to have a big inning. And this series in particular is very frustrating to watch from my perspective because you have Trent Grisham leading off for the New York Yankees. This guy hit like 190 last season. The at-bats were horrible. He's striking out like 35% of the time. And now all of a sudden he's hitting 300. He has 7 or 8 home runs. Ben Rice is hitting for this team. He was not very good last year whatsoever either. Where's the Toronto Blue Jays jump? When can we get somebody like that? Other than, I guess, George Springer and Tyler Heineman that are kind of doing it in a little bit in bunches. But when can we get those guys that are going to take that massive step? That guy that takes that step, gets a lead in that leadoff spot, allows Bichette to hit second, allows Vladimir to hit third, kind of moves the people down. Nobody in this team is really showing out and playing themselves into a regular playing time role. None of the young guys, really right now, none of the older guys as well. Nobody on this team is stepping up. And that is one of the biggest problems with this offense right now. And with the pitching, if you're not perfect, you're losing the baseball game. When is the last time this pitching staff even had a lead or some sort of comfortable lead where they didn't have to have in the back of their head, if I make one bad pitch and I give up 1 or 2 runs, we're going to be in some serious trouble here. It seems like they are fighting for their lives every single time on the mound. They're doing it well. They're still pitching effectively, but it's got to be very stressful when you know if you give up 2 or 3 runs, you probably have a pretty good chance right now of losing that baseball game.
Yeah, and you know what? I had a coworker come up to me today and ask while the game was going on, and he was like, "Oh, the Blue Jays are up," and I'm like, "Yeah, Max Fried's on the mound. This team will not score more than 2 runs probably, and they're going to get smoked." And he goes, "Really? Like, how do you know that?" And then it absolutely happens because I've seen this exact situation before. And it's just frustrating. And I guess, Carter, let's, we can kick around being upset all we want, but I guess let's get into the games. What has happened? Like let's give people a little bit of a look at sort of going back to the Friday game. I guess let's start there because this is the game that you got a gift, right? You got an absolute gift wrapped win. Thanks to Devin Williams, because that guy's an absolute bum. But through the first bunch of this game until the 9th inning, I didn't believe for a hot second this team was going to win that ball game. They looked horrendous. The offense looked horrendous. The pitching looked good, but the offense looked terrible. And I thought there was no way they were winning this baseball game. And they probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for Alejandro Kirk, to be honest.
Yeah, an absolute legacy game from Alejandro Kirk. So I guess we'll kind of roll with the positives at least a little bit here because this is really the only positive that I can kind of take from the weekend. I guess you got a Tony Sanders home run. That's obviously good to see the Vladdy home run. But again, you want that more in bunches. But Alejandro Kirk, what a day from the guy, obviously. Throwing 2 runners out, and they're not, no slouches either. It was Jazz Chisholm, Cody Bellinger, pretty quick guys on the base paths. Absolutely guns those 2 out, and then obviously a massive hit off of Devin Williams in that 9th inning. His hardest hit ball of the season, 105 miles an hour off the bat. Comes in a massive spot, and Devin Williams, like you said, gifts the Toronto Blue Jays a game. They had no business winning that baseball game. And I said on the Friday podcast, I said, we're going to have to get to Carlos Carrasco. If this team cannot get to Carlos Carrasco and hit this guy around, a guy that has like a 6.5 ERA, the stuff just isn't very good either, there's going to be a serious problem. And look at the stat line this guy put up in this game. 5 innings pitched, only 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. this guy is not good. You're going to face a lot better pitchers in the future than a guy like Carlos Carrasco. And right now, it doesn't matter if it's Nolan Ryan or if it's Patrick Corbin or if you're on the mound throwing baseballs. You're going to put up pretty good numbers against the Toronto Blue Jays offense right now. That's the story that we had from the entire weekend, but we're kind of lucky in the sense where this could be even worse off if Devin Williams is not pitching for the New York Yankees in that ninth inning.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that's the sad part about all of this is at the end of the day, taking a game against the Yankees right now when your team is on a little bit of a drought is a great thing. You're happy with taking a game here. You're thrilled. But the problem is that how this win came about. And then going into the next two games on a doubleheader, I said I was so happy and ready to watch the doubleheader because we had the Winnipeg Jets playing in their playoff game, 2 Blue Jays games. It was an awesome day for sports for me. And the Jets get killed. At the same time, the Blue Jays are getting shelled. And then I have to sit there for my last 2 hours at work and watch the Blue Jays lose again. I don't know. In the fashion in which this win and these losses happen make me much more worried about that if they would have went out and lost 11-7 to the Yankees, or an 8-6 loss, an 11-7 loss and whatever, this is way more troubling. And I think you have to admit at some point, and I don't want to say the season's over. I don't want to say that. I know I did a little bit, but I'm also trying to be realistic, and I think there is a path forward for this team, but they are going to have to start figuring things out very quickly.
Yeah, you're going to just continue to dig yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole if your offense continues to play like this. You know what's bad? When Aaron Boone probably went to Devin Williams, like you got hit around by the Blue Jays. You got hit around by that lineup. You blew a game to those guys. Like you're getting demoted. And that's exactly what happened. He is no longer the closer of the New York Yankees because of that game. Now it is Luke Weaver. And we saw him obviously in the third game of this series as well. Absolutely dominate the Toronto Blue Jays hitters. So thanks to Devin Williams, I guess, for keeping us a little bit sane, I guess, and kind of saving the weekend a little bit. I'm still not very excited about how the weekend turned out, but I'm happy about a 2-3 series loss compared to that series sweep that it could have been, that 8-game losing streak that we could have been on. So you get one there. It's not a complete loss series against the Yankees, but this would have been a nice time to obviously take advantage of a divisional opponent. Again, they are playing pretty good baseball, but these division games matter. We know how bad the Toronto Blue Jays were against the AL East last season. That was one of our biggest things. You got to be better against the AL East. Hasn't necessarily happened too much right now. They are ahead of the Boston Red Sox, but that might change the way this offense is playing for this upcoming series. And to end the kind of just the stats off with the offense, and we'll kind of go into game 2 and game 3 in the second segment. But I just have some offensive stats from the Toronto Blue Jays so far this season. So the runs, they are tied for 25th with 3.5 runs. Hits, we're hitting the ball decently so far this season and up until that Houston Astros series. So they are 13th in hits, 14th in average, 15th in OBP. But this is where you start to see there's just no power on this team whatsoever. Like I said, the runs are 25th. Slugging percentage is 348. That's 26th in the league. OPS 662. That is 24th in the league. Home runs at 14. I think it might be 15 now after that Santander home run, but still 29th in all of baseball, second last. And then obviously on the flip side, the pitchers are giving up a decent amount of home runs, 33 home runs. Again, that might be before that doubleheader against the New York Yankees, but still the team is giving up a fair amount of long balls and they do not have any power whatsoever. And we just seen this story like in the last week, time and time again, is that you're not giving your pitchers a lot of leeway and you're not making it very exciting to watch these baseball games when you're putting up 3-4 hits at best, and then you're maybe scoring 1 to 2 runs per ball game.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm looking over all the statistics that me and you have written down. I think it is pre-doubleheader, but it tells the exact story of what this team is. They can't hit, and the pitchers are doing their job. They just give up too many long balls, and that is, if you had to sum up the Blue Jays in 10 words or less, there you go, because it is that simple. At the end of the day, baseball, you don't have to look too hard to understand what makes a good baseball team and what makes a bad baseball team. And right now, the Blue Jays are looking at being a bad baseball team. 4th in the AL East right now, ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, who are a absolute joke because they can't pitch at all. The Tampa Bay Rays are above the Toronto Blue Jays. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, I don't know what else would. Carter, we got a lot more to get into. We want to break down some other games and stuff like that, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. I know there's a lot of complaining, but I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel? We've seen some of your guys' comments of, there's no hope. Well, let us know. Like, does this series, us taking one game on the Yankees, make you feel better? Or do you look at these games in totality and think, wow, we are in a rough spot right now? Let us know in the comments down below. We'll take a quick break. Be right back. Today's episode brought to you guys by FanDuel. You guys know I love FanDuel. I love betting on baseball, hockey, but I've started to get into some NBA action with the playoffs going on. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Now, make sure you guys get those bonus bets. It is huge. I got some the other day for doing our code because my brother was putting in, and then one of my good friends that is trying to get into sports betting as well. He wanted to get in. I'm like, well, you know what? Since you're not super involved yet, get in with the bonus bets. It allows you some leeway, some practice, some breathing room before you actually dump a whole bunch of your own money in. And, maybe you get good at it. You go on the live same game parlays. I love those because I can see what's going on, what the action looks like, and then bet accordingly. So I tell you guys to go do that as well. Don't miss out. Like I said, head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. So, Carter, I mean, again, we talk about the first game, and I mean, there were positives to take from that game. The problem is now for the second segment here, we've left ourselves having to talk about two games that I almost don't even want to think about. But here we are. Let's talk about the game one. 11-2 Yankees over the Blue Jays. I could have told you from the drop of the hat here that this game was not going the Blue Jays' way. The Yankees just look better. Kevin Gausman goes out there, first two innings, and he looks really good. And I'm thinking, wow, Kevin Gausman's got his stuff. And then it was a complete and utter collapse in the third inning. And don't get me wrong, the umpiring was horrible. It was really bad. Kevin Gausman had about 6 pitches that were either just below the zone, like catching a piece, or almost an entire ball in the zone. Didn't get one of those calls. Then there was an at-bat with Vlad. There was an at-bat with somebody else as well. That got called strikes at the bottom of the zone, lower than where Kevin Gausman's were, and they were called for strikes. At that point, I think Kevin Gausman's already tossed out of the game. John Schneider comes out, and I full on good go. This was a good one for John Schneider because it was bad. And usually I'll say like, oh, it's already too late, whatever. I think going into a doubleheader, you don't want your players super angry and upset. And I think this was a good job handling this situation from John Schneider. So I will give him his hat tips on this one. And at the end of the day, I can't, I saw some of you guys, I think it was on an old video, had just commented saying that, oh, we should just get rid of John Schneider. And this was, I think, in the offseason, it was one of our podcast episodes, Carter. And I don't know if there is an option for John Schneider right now to do anything to help this team. It comes down to the fact that this offense is giving him absolutely nothing. And I don't think he's made a horrible decision yet this year. That's really, really horrible. Too bad that I'm trying to, get him fired. So I guess good on him. I don't know. Today, this last game or the first game of this doubleheader on Friday, I think he handled that situation perfectly.
Yeah, you're not really leaving him with a lot of cards at his disposal right now. Like John Schneider, with his history, not really known as a guy to make the best decisions, but like you said, you cannot blame John Schneider whatsoever for what he's dealing with right now. You can maybe argue a little bit of the bullpen decisions. I think he's using Brendan Little maybe a little bit more than a guy like Yimi Garcia. At that point, I mean, if you have your guy, whose guy's better at that point? So sometimes I don't care about the lefty-lefty matchup. I just want the guy that I know is going to be a dog on the mound. I just trust Yimi Garcia more than Brendan Little. But right now, just with how the offense is playing, again, you could put Vladdy at 1, you could put Vladdy at 9, you could put Santander at 1, you could put Miles Straw at 1. It doesn't matter how you have this batting order right now when nobody's hitting. It's going to be the exact same production anyway because you're not getting consistent production from really anyone in this lineup right now. Other than, I guess, like I said, Tyler Heineman, always got to give him the shout out when we can, because that's one of the only positives with the offense right now. But with Kevin Gausman, just absolutely flying through the first 2 innings, 12 pitches in the first inning, 6 in the second inning. And going into the third inning, his velo actually bumped up. And so he started sitting around 95, 96 with the fastball, which you want to see from Kevin Gausman. That's why he was so good in 2023. But then it all got blown up in the third inning. It seemed like Kevin Gausman just completely lost command. He did not know where the ball was going to end up, and it cost him a lot. And he set franchise records, and not the way you want to set some franchise records. He threw 53 pitches in the third inning, which was tied for the most ever in franchise history. And that was by Woody Williams in 1998. It was also the most pitches thrown in an MLB inning since a Pirates pitcher, July 1st, 2022. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. But obviously, this doesn't happen very often. It especially does not happen very often with a guy like Kevin Gausman. He had 5 or 6 walks going into this appearance. Just completely lost that command in the third inning. As a vet, you wanted to kind of let him have that leash and kind of figure it out. But you can kind of tell early on here. Maybe this is where some people get a little bit upset about Kevin Gausman. Maybe you could have taken him out a bit earlier, because you did notice that his command was off and he already threw. Again, when you're at 40 pitches in 1 inning, things aren't necessarily going well. But it's Kevin Gausman. This guy is your ace on your team. Probably the best pitcher on your team. Maybe, I guess, other than Jeff Hoffman, if you want to argue that. That's a completely different story, though. Kevin Gausman is a very good pitcher, and I think most of the time, I would be comfortable with him kind of working himself out of those jams. Just could not figure it out in that inning, unfortunately. And then, obviously, the bullpen comes in. You're throwing your lower leverage guys. At that point, I think both teams kind of knew, hey, we have another game coming up after this as well. Let's just kind of, run this into the next game. We're kind of just a little bit of a punt game after that blow-up inning by Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know, right? I don't think this is a John Schneider problem about taking him out. I think you have to have your confidence in your guy and try to let him go. So I totally agree with you. In the same breath, I think a little bit of it was Kevin Gausman got pretty upset with the umpiring and where he was getting calls. And it doesn't always happen, but once in a while that can get in your head where you're almost pitching for the umpire instead of you're throwing instead of pitching a little bit. And you're trying to play to the umpire's calls, and that can sometimes hurt you instead of just pitching your game. And Kevin Gausman, I think, got a little bit, mind melted a little bit here. So, again, what do I take away from that game from Kevin Gausman? I'm not overly upset with him, to be honest with you. I think from everything that we've seen Kevin Gausman do, yes, bad game, but I'm not moving forward worried about him as much as I am the offense, because that game, you're right, maybe is over but at that point. But at the same token, it would have been nice to see the offense sort of step up and be like, hey, we're still here. We're still going to battle for you, even though it wasn't your best night. But that didn't happen. So I don't know. There was a lot that went wrong with this weekend, but I think Kevin Gausman, I'm the least worried about, I think, out of everything that went wrong.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say, especially when they came out after the game. Pete Walker looked very worried in the dugout. It looked like he was concerned about Kevin Gausman's health and just if he had an injury, just because it's just so atypical of Kevin Gausman to lose his command like that. But luckily, there is no physical problems with Kevin Gausman. It was just a very bad day, obviously. And it's very, like you said, it's very mentally taxing when you have 3 out of 4 hitters in a row with multiple pitches. Well as Guerrero was one, Ben Rice. I don't think Aaron Judge had too many bad calls. There's another bad one against Cody Bellinger. So you have so many calls going against you in such a short amount of time. And you're already, again, not having your best stuff. You're already kind of battling through things. And you're not getting any help from the umpire whatsoever. That's not going to bode too well mentally. And we saw that Kevin Gausman kind of blow up after as well. Gave his 2 cents, obviously, to the umpire. He actually left the game and said, I'm going to go watch your bad umpiring on TV. And that was a quote that he got from Hazel May. So, yeah, you say that to an umpire, you're probably going to get tossed. But at that point, Kevin Gausman's already exited the game. Very frustrated. Slipped in the dugout as well. Thank God that wasn't like a Joey Votto incident where somehow he rolled an ankle or something like that. I guess, Kevin Gausman doesn't have those 40-year-old, skinny ankles that I guess they're a little bit more prone to injury or not getting injured, I guess. So Kevin Gausman got a little bit more of those stronger ankles than a guy like Joey Votto. But I definitely see why he was that upset after that game, especially, again, you don't have your stuff and you're not getting helped out whatsoever. And then obviously nice to see John Schneider, sticking up for your guy. Most fired up I've seen him this season by far, sticking up for Kevin Gausman, because there was some egregious calls in a couple of those innings. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to battle through that. It does suck when it happens so many different times. But with the umpires, with how Kevin Gausman was, I think everything in totality, just Kevin Gausman was not too happy with his performance today.
No, and I mean you can't be. I mean I wasn't either. I was frustrated. Like some of those calls, Carter. Like I was like pounding the desk, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I think back to our days playing when you'd get a bad umpire in high school ball, and we'd flip out. So I can't imagine when you're trying to compete for your job and your money and your livelihood a little bit, how frustrating that can be and mentally taxing that can be. So again, I'm not letting Kevin Gausman off scot-free here. It was a bad outing. But again, I don't think my biggest worry. Carter, again, nothing burger of a game after that. I mean, it was just pretty bad. Moving on to game 3. This is the one that really sort of made me a little upset because again, game 2 or game 1 of the doubleheader, you were going against Max Fried. You knew that was going to be a tough showing for the offense. They were going to really have to put up. But in game 3, they go up against Clark Schmidt, and I expected them to do decent. Especially after just getting pummeled, you'd think, hey, these guys are going to try to have a little fight in them. And no. And I don't think Chris Bassitt had a horrible day, to be honest. I mean, he allowed 4 runs in 5 2/3 inning. It wasn't I don't think he had his best stuff, but I don't think it was horrible. And it's the same adage. This offense does nothing. Literally nothing, Carter. It was just horrible.
Yeah, so I went over the Toronto Blue Jays offensive numbers. I'm going to go over the New York Yankees offensive numbers real quick. They are tied for second in the league in runs, tied for fourth in hits, tied for third, or they are third in average. They are second in OBP, first in slugging, first in OPS, second in home runs. They have 41. And then stolen bases doesn't really matter. They're 13th. So clearly just in completely different worlds offensively. And Chris Bassitt going against a very good lineup. A lot of those guys do have like significantly above league average OPSs. And I know it is early on in the season. Maybe you don't expect Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, hit 280, 300 like those guys are hitting right now. Trent Grisham's on pace for like 40 home runs. I don't expect that to keep up, but they're getting that production. I don't care who it's coming from. They are getting that offensive production. They are hitting for power. They are scoring runs. And we're seeing how well that it is working for the New York Yankees. And it just reminds me of the brand of baseball that I just wish that we had right now back in 2021, 2022, and just kind of how spoiled we were. The other day, I actually looked up how many like home runs the Toronto Blue Jays hit because they just don't hit home runs anymore. And Marcus Semien has over 40 home runs. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has 48 home runs. Bichette has 29 home runs. Bichette doesn't even have a home run this year. I think in the moment, maybe we were just very lucky, or maybe this offense is just literally one of the worst things I've ever seen. And just looking at this series, looking at the pitching, they did their best against Max Fried. They had their best at-bats against Max Fried. They had 11 hits in that game. It's just they couldn't get that big hit. Kind of going back to that Seattle Mariners series, at least the starting games in that Seattle Mariners series, at least they were getting on base. They were getting hits. But again, failing to get that big hit and failing to cash in runs. Over this last week and a half, that has been the massive storyline of this Toronto Blue Jays team. Even if they somehow do get on base, they're not going to cash in those runs. It just feels like we're watching the same game over and over and over and over again, and nothing has changed in this last week. And that's why, obviously, the demeanor on this podcast is us being very frustrated with the team, and I'm sure you guys are as well.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel bad because you don't want to come on here and just complain and whine about your team, but at the same time, what else do you do, right? Do you come on here and say, "Oh, that wasn't too bad. They only gave up 107 runs this weekend, and they only scored 4." But you got to be realistic, and we try to be somewhat, look on the bright side of things, and we want this team to do well. We're not going to pray on this team's downfall, but you go through an 8-game span of this team being bad offensively. And it gets to a point where we have to start saying something. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I said at the beginning of this podcast that I'm looking for the panic button right now because I'm worried. Do I think it's the season's over and it's the doomsday of the Toronto Blue Jays? No. But I think we have to start asking some questions here. And so that's what we're going to do over the next little bit, I guess, is really just try to dive in and see what can be a change here. Or is it just, hey, this offense is bad and we're just going to have to accept that. I don't know where we're at. Carter, I know you got something you want to get into for the third segment because your boy is back, is what I will say. Your favorite player is back. Do you have anything else just on the games before we get into all that? Do you have anything else, or do you really just want to talk about him that badly?
Yeah, don't want to talk about him whatsoever, but obviously that is going to be something we talk about. Just depressing. That's just the mood right now with the Toronto Blue Jays baseball, especially obviously regarding the offense. I'm not expecting the offense to be this bad the entire season, but at what point is it going to actually kind of turn on? Like, at what point are we going to see even doubles, even hits? Let's just get singles at this point. Let's go back to singling people to death, and then maybe scoring at least one run sometimes. I just want runs. I think that's kind of what everyone is asking for with the Toronto Blue Jays, because you see what the product is in the field. You see just literally the quality of a bat. The eye test is just has not been fun to watch whatsoever. So I guess we'll kind of get into Braden's favorite part of the show, obviously talking about, I guess, my favorite player, according to him. You guys will realize who that is after this short break.
Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live, the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets even easier. Trust me, I can't say enough good things about Game Time. If you guys have watched episodes before, I always say it's my only place that I will go and get tickets because it literally is just the best. You get live from your seat view, so you can see what your seat looks like, what the view is from there. They have the last minute deals. They give you deals closer and closer to the event. They have their all in pricing, so you don't have to wait till you're in the cart to see what the total price is going to be. It's right there. You can see it as you're looking through all the tickets you might get. Again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. I was just telling this to a bunch of people the other day, actually, about how if I'm going to buy a ticket, that's the only place I'm going to go, because everybody always complains about other ticketing apps not being able to do this. Oh, it's so much more expensive. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Just go on Game Time. It's not that hard. It's an app. You guys can download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Carter's favorite player is back with the Toronto Blue Jays organization. Carter, who is back? Who is he?
Yeah, I'm just going to read the tweet for the people here. So this is from Shy Davidi. Righty pitcher Jacob Barnes, who elected free agency on April 22nd after getting DFA'd, signed a minor league deal and is back with Buffalo. The man is back. I have no idea why they're doing this. Like, I guess that if we're at the point where you have to pull up Jacob Barnes and like they're taking another chance on Jacob Barnes, there's probably a million injuries in the bullpen, and we're probably having a lot of worse talk, and we're probably like, oh, we are the most unlucky team in baseball. Because after what we saw in that short circumstance from Jacob Barnes, unless, Buffalo's really struggling for some depth, maybe, and maybe he's just a AAA king, Jacob Barnes, but I do not want to see this guy in the major leagues at all again this season. I don't care what the circumstances.
I thought we sent him to the moon with Bradley Zimmer and Richard Lovelady, but apparently he got a flight back just like Katy Perry, and here he is. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't care. As long as I don't have to see him in a Blue Jays uniform again, I'm okay. I feel bad for the AAA team, but who knows? Maybe he's just a dog in AAA. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
I'm all for trial and error with bullpen arms, but we've already done this one before. We've heard this story before. We're doing the song and dance again. I don't understand the move whatsoever here when you could have just literally went with anyone else. You could have, went on the streets of Toronto and probably, found someone there, and I would have been a little bit more excited for him to pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays, for the Buffalo Bisons, for Dunedin. I don't care where it is. I don't really want Jacob Barnes anywhere near this organization after what he did previously. A couple more things I just do want to go over. There was a roster move, obviously, for the doubleheader. You are allowed 27 players in that instance. So they called up Jonathan Clase for that 27th man spot. He goes over for the strikeout in that performance. Again, he's had a very good he's had a very good start to the season in AAA. I was like at 865 OPS. Again, the at-bats look pretty good. I probably would have just left him down there. I know, like, the Nathan Lucas hate's going a little bit crazy right now. People want Jonathan Clase up. Then the upside with Jonathan Clase probably is a lot higher than Nathan Lucas. But again, I just don't think there's enough playing time for these outfielders right now. There's such an excess of outfielders, especially Daulton Varsho coming back into the picture. I just don't necessarily see how the playing time is going to work for Jonathan Clase long term, unless he really does start breaking out and has like 1,000 OPS, and there's no way you cannot play this guy. But one thing that could happen is maybe you drop two guys. Maybe Alan Roden goes to AAA. Maybe Nathan Lucas also goes to AAA. Maybe they send Aston Barger and make Jonathan Clase better. I just think that you have too many young guys up right now and not enough playing time to go around.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And this is the conversation that me and you've had all the time, is that what's more productive for the Toronto Blue Jays and for the young players' development? Is it being in AAA and getting everyday at bats, or is it more important for them to be on the major league club? And that's a conversation decision that has to be made with this organization. And I think they go in a few different directions all the time. Like, we never really know where their heads are at with when it comes to player development. So that's something I'm a little bit worried about moving forward. Maybe we'll have to go a little bit more in depth on this one day and talking about, looking back at some of the guys that have been sent down and that have gotten proper development and other guys that maybe haven't. So I don't know. It's a question for the future for sure.
Yeah, we're going to have to be monitoring these young guys because this offense needs some sort of spark. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know if they necessarily have it within the organization. We might need another Davis Schneider legacy run. Like that might be the last hope for this offense, unless they finally start hitting home runs. But again, you're playing the Boston Red Sox, who are a very good baseball team. You got Garrett Crochet again in that series. It did go okay the first time that Garrett Crochet was around, but it did look like he didn't necessarily have the stuff that we're accustomed to seeing from him. So again, things are not getting easier for the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, they do have an off day Monday, but Tuesday, the Boston Red Sox are coming to town. I think right now, like the way the Toronto Blue Jays are hitting, like we almost got to go to like the bench warmers here. Maybe go like major league. Let's hit like Clark and Richie, honestly, on this team. They got to start hitting like Gus Bus. We need a couple of Gus Buses to just launch some tanks off of these Boston Red Sox pitchers. I don't know what it's going to take necessarily, but we've been saying that something needs to change. We've been asking for change for a long time. I don't even know if change would necessarily be the fix, unless you're going to make a blockbuster trade. Somehow you don't get like a Pete Alonso or I don't know, like Ronald Acuna Jr. when he comes back. But I just don't obviously see that in the cards until the trade deadline. So unfortunately with this offense, unless it is like that Davis Schneider, unless it is that Aston Barger, somehow Elvis Martinez starts firing or Daulton Varsho comes back and lights the world on fire, there are not a lot of troops that can help this baseball club at this time.
No, I agree. And listen, we got a lot more coming for you guys tomorrow because we're coming off an off day, no game to recap. So again, I think in the next few Mondays, they're off days. So we're going to be, diving a little bit more in depth onto just the conversations that we don't get to have throughout the week, which is a nice thing. So make sure you guys tune into tomorrow's episode because we got a lot to break down, a lot to get into. And have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.